Hello, I'm Philip Brunelle, Artistic Director and founder of Vocal Lessons and organist choir master at Plymouth Congregational Church. Each day in this beautiful space here in Guildhall at Plymouth Church, a space which the choirs of Vocal Lessons rehearse, as does the choir of Plymouth Church, I've tried each day to select a composer who's had a role to play with both organizations. Anthems that are composers of the past as well as composers of the present. Today it's the English composer Jonathan Harvey, H-A-R-V-E-Y. Born in 1939, passed away in 2012. He was not only a composer, but he was renowned as a teacher. In the 1980s, he spent time in Paris at a place called IRCAM, I-R-C-A-M, which was set up by the composer Pierre Boulez. And it was a studio that functioned working with electronics, working with speech analysis. And it had all kinds of interesting electronic ideas that it explored, not only with voices, but also with the various instruments of the orchestra. So Jonathan Harvey would often compose music for a solo instrument with electronic possibilities. He also did chamber music, he did string trios, quartets, and he did choral music, and that's what we're going to talk about. He wrote in 1984 a piece called Come, Holy Ghost, and it uses that Pentecost theme, Come, Holy Ghost, our souls inspire and lighten with celestial fire. It's a piece that, as he says, needs at least 16 voices. You might want more than that. And it starts with a baritone singing the familiar Pentecost hymn. But around that, a cluster of sounds. So you have the bass starting, and then the tenor goes to, and then the second tenor, and the second alto, and the first alto. So that chord is being held while that Pentecost melody is being sung. And then it starts splitting up, and there's like 3 or 4 parts per voices. So you'd have the basses doing, and they would be holding that while you would hear, and then the soprano's doing it. So it's not a piece that I can play for you to give the effect, but you can just imagine that in a beautiful cathedral, when you suddenly hear all of these strands of sound, it's a really mesmerizing, beautiful piece. Come, Holy Ghost. For King's College, Cambridge, he wrote a piece called The Angels, and it's somewhat similar. He wrote this one in 1994. It's a text by John V. Taylor that begins, should you hear them singing among stars or whispering secrets of a wiser world, do not imagine ardent fledgling children. They are intelligences old as sunrise that never learnt right from left, before from after, knowing but one direction, into God, but one duration, now. It's a piece also for double choir. And the second choir is humming. And so you get a constant feeling of this going on. And so that just undulating of that happening while the first choir is singing the poem. So you have something like this. And then they would sing. And so this whole thing with the poem continues with the second choir doing that. Finally, when it gets to that phrase that I mentioned where it says, knowing but one direction into God, then choir 2, doing this, moves to this chord. It reminds me a bit of Messiaen and that kind of use of harmony. It's another wonderful piece, The Angels. Now, at Plymouth Church, we have sung a piece of his called I Love the Lord. This was written in 1976, and he said about it, a G major chord sounding through most of the anthem depicts the joyful love and irrepressible faith of a soul that clings to its Lord despite its suffering and anguish. So here you have, if you can just imagine that you've got 3 people and they continue to sing, I love the Lord. And they keep doing it. Sometimes they get a little louder, a little softer. But around them, then the whole rest of the choir singing the text, I love the Lord because he has heard my voice and my supplication, because he has inclined his ear unto me, therefore will I call upon him as long as I live. And that happens while you're still hearing all the time, because he has heard my voice. And it's only when they get to as long as I live that suddenly you get this. And then the whole choir, when they say the sorrows of death, and then they resolve, and the pains of hell got me. Anyway, it's a fascinating piece, and another one that the choir loves to sing. But the piece I'm going to play for you is one that he wrote called God is Our Refuge, which he wrote to the University of Sussex. And it's a setting of the words from Psalm 46. But what it does is uses that familiar hymn, A Mighty Fortress is Our God. So you hear the phrases of that, but then suddenly, and again this is with the organ and the choir, suddenly after saying God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble, then comes the thought, be still and know that I am God. And then it goes back and you hear a mighty fortress, and then be still. So it keeps coming back. I'm going to play a little bit of the beginning and the very end of this dramatic and wonderful anthem by Jonathan Harvey. And then, be still and know that I am God. And then again, be still and know. And I'll tell you, if you're a second bass, you love this because you get to sing all those. So it keeps doing that wonderful thing, and then it goes into God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved, be still and know. And then it comes to the ending. And the last one, the heathen raged, the kingdoms were moved, he uttered his voice, the earth melted, the Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our refuge. Lots of flamboyant stuff. And then, Then you say, I will be exalted. I will be exalted in the earth. And then as soft as possible, they sing, be still. Music of Jonathan Harvey. Have a wonderful day.